What's up, guys? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown. I have the cream of the crop with me today, Mr. Moneybags, Big T and JSU. Big T, I have to ask, but I already know the answer. How are you doing today?
It's going good. It's going good. It's been a good week, a good week of hoops. The NBA is just a fun time. Pick some winners, run decent, good times. It feels good to know what JSU feels like once a month here. It feels good to live the JSU life.
Yeah, you get to take the spotlight for him, for like a month or two.
He hates it too. That's the best part. I love
I'll
just
get
kicking his ass.
I'll
Just kick
give
his
him
ass.
I'll give him the spotlight. I don't even want it, but I'll just say I'm gonna pull a role reversal here, and I'm just honored. I'm honored to be on with the big man. So let's go. I stayed up and sweated it out for him, and yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, we had all types of guys trying to come on the show today, but I said no. People want to see Big T. He's the hot man at the moment. Like, sorry, Tom Brady, like chilling Disneyland here. We got to get the man that people want to see. So let's get
And then
straight
I'm
into
just
it.
and then I'm just the one Big T drags along right now. I'm on his back right now. Big T's running with me on his back. So I'm just the straggler right now. So I'll take it though. No doubt right now. Big T one up me or twice now. So
Yeah.
we'll keep it going.
Well, JSU. To be fair, your track record's well known, and we know how well you do on this. And can't go wrong following your core plays either. But
Don't
we
be
got to give
building
a
him
shout out
up.
to the hot
Let
hand.
him know how it feels to be behind Big T in those
No,
standings.
I'll be number two. I'm glad. Hey, listen, as long as it's RPS, I'm fine being number two or whatever it is. So I'm cool with it. As long as we're giving winners, whoever it is, I'm happy we're giving winners. That's all that matters.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic, and also just because we get to make workbench jokes along with it. So the workbench play of the day has been on fire, and let's see if we can continue that run today. The first game we have is the Raptors laying 5 in Washington. Raptors only 11-13 on the year, but we say it every single time. They started off so bad that is a little deceiving. Washington coming off, I think they're coming off a win, right? Yeah, they beat Chicago. That was a game I was on the wrong side on. I was so upset when Zach LaVine missed that layup. But regardless, Washington 6-15, Toronto 11-13, Toronto 10-13 against the spread. Washington 9-12, Toronto 14-10 to the over under. Washington only 11-10 as they started putting all those numbers in the 240s. Toronto has a 2 net rating. Washington minus 6.3. So we'll start with you, JSU. Did you have a lean on the side here? Is 5 too much to lay with Toronto here, or should we be taking the hot team right now?
I mean, I don't really like Washington here. I'm not. I think I don't want to lay the 5 though, honestly. But I don't hate the bet. It's just not something that I'm 100% on. Like if you ask me, like, is this one of your top like 2 or 3 bet? Like I would say no. Like I'm not that confident. But I would definitely lean the Raptor side if I was to take a side. I'm just worried about Washington, man. They play no defense now. They'll play fast and they'll push the pace and stuff like that. But Toronto, they can score. They're almost all like healthy with their key players. OG's questionable today, so if he plays, that's just another boost to that team. He's a really good defender, and he's been much better offensively this year, in my opinion. So it's just one of those things where I don't really trust that Washington can definitely keep this game close. Now, if they can keep this game close, that's one thing, but I just don't trust it. Even with Westbrook back, I'm not completely sure that Westbrook makes the team a whole lot better. Like I definitely think it makes them better, but I don't know how much better. Like as a star, normally when you take a star off a team, they drop big time. I don't know. Like I think Bradley Beal is an absolute stud, but Westbrook is sometimes a detriment to a team because he just can't shoot. If he's shooting well, he's so hard to guard. But when he has drought shooting, man, he's a liability sometimes on that offensive end.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Big T, you going to take some of the winnings from last night and go ahead and lay it on Toronto here on the road?
So I'm gonna have to disagree right out of the gate.
All right, I love it.
Toronto is a team that I love to take as an underdog. I like to take in close games against good teams. I don't like taking Toronto as much against teams that they're better than when they have to give 5-6 points because they battle with teams. They play down to competition and up to competition in my mind. And Washington's roster matches up surprisingly good with Toronto's. I think I always talk about Van Vliet's defense, but against a guy like Westbrook who can get all the way to the rim, I think that hurts him a little bit because he doesn't want to shoot. I just think they match up good. Like, I really like how Westbrook matches up with them going to the 10. And I like some of these other pieces that are slowly starting to play better. I mean, Rui has looked really good the last week or two. Bertans is slowly rounding into form, hitting a few shots. I mean, Ish Smith's good off the bench. Alex Lynn has looked a little better. I just think 6 is too many in this game. I kind of think Washington keeps it close. My normal thing where I'll take the points and then I'll take the money line a little bit on Washington. I think Washington can beat Toronto, and Toronto's been a team I've had a pretty good feel for. They've been one of my stronger teams. It's simple to me. Like, I really like them when they play good teams, and I don't like them as much when they're favored against bad teams. It's just what I believe in with them. So I'll take the points tonight with Washington.
All right. So total open at 229, all the way up to 234. Total 234. Does that mean that we'll see some of these players in your guys' lineups tonight?
Go ahead, Jason. Are you talking on
JSU,
mute now?
You're muting. You got to unmute.
Wow.
That's how rattled I
rookie,
got him. When he
that was
finishes
a rookie
below
move
15,
right there. That was
that's
a
what-
rookie move. So, I know I talked down Westbrook a little bit because he can be a liability, but he's 8,400 on DraftKings. From what he can do just from a rebounding, assist, he has all the bonus upside with the double-double, triple-double upside. His issue has always been with fantasy is he doesn't always put up those like 20, 30-point games. That's where he gets his upside because he's going to get you 7, 8, 9, 10 rebounds. Same thing with the assists. It's more the points. If he's making shots, he's going to crush that, price tag at 8,400. So I just wonder how owned he's going to be, how popular he's going to be. I'm kind of waiting on that ownership, but I do think at 8,400 he is square in play because, like I said, that price tag is just too cheap for a guy like Westbrook who does everything. Outside of that, I'm not really on Bradley Beal. He's still in like the 9K range. I don't really like him as much on this slate. The other guys from Toronto, I think Kyle Lowry's price tag is good in the lower 7Ks. He's not on the injury report after the back spasms where he came out of the game. Maybe people are afraid of that, but I think he's 7.3K on DraftKings. Nice price tag. It's Siakam and Van Fleet who I'm not sure about because they're really expensive, but at the same time, that's going to keep their ownership somewhat down. So in tournaments, it's not a bad idea. I know Tony likes it, just stacking up the Toronto side who play all the minutes, those 3 guys really, and then just kind of running it back with someone like Westbrook. It's not a terrible idea in tournaments.
What do you think, Tony? Are these guys going to get you to 6 figures tonight?
Yeah, Toronto. The Toronto guys, like JSU said, they're always in play because they're always going to play 40 minutes. And against Washington, if the game stays close, like I think it will, they have to be in play. I mean, if they're playing 40 minutes against Washington, they just have a good chance to get there. So definitely in play. I don't know as far as where they rank. I mean, Lowry is going to be one of the better plays without a doubt. I mean, Pascal and Van Vliet's prices are much higher, like JSU said, but they're still in play. I mean, it's a good matchup. If you think Washington stays in the game, they definitely have to be in play for you.
Not even that, though, too. Remember, like, Toronto is one of those teams where they have to be really blowing you out to pull their starters. Like, if this is a 10 or 15-point game even, they're going to keep their guys in. They'll run them unless it's like 20, 25. That's how Toronto has always played. The game's almost like not over unless you're just absolutely kicking the crap out of teams. So that's the other thing too. You could like the Toronto side from a betting side. You could lean taking the 5 points and still, like, if they're winning by 8 or 10 this whole game, that's not going to kill you. 15 even. That's not going to kill you from a blowout perspective in DFS. So I think you shouldn't even be worried about it unless you think they're absolutely going to get crushed.
All right, that sounds like a plan. As I'm tinkering with these lineups, haven't hit six figures yet, but definitely learning and getting better. The next game we have on the slate is Atlanta heading to Dallas. This is a rematch of a game that once again I was on the wrong side of it. I thought Atlanta would take care of Dallas at home, and I felt good about it for 3.5 quarters. But Dallas went ahead and got the win there at the end of the game, and they were aggressively doubling Trey Young. They basically said anyone but Trey can beat us, which kind of surprised me that Carlisle was so aggressive, like implementing a game plan, because a lot of times we don't see that until the playoffs. So really impressed with Rick Carlisle and how he got these guys going. And I think a struggle that I'm having actually with both of these teams right now is if you're running a model-based handicap system, I don't think that your model is going to give you an accurate idea of either of these teams and where they're at right now. And they're going in different directions because for Dallas, you're going to have a whole bunch of information when they are missing Richardson, Finney-Smith, Brunson, Kleber, Powell, right? These guys, even Porzingis, they've all been in and out of the lineup, right? So your number is going to be lower. Like, for example, my number says to take Atlanta. But then we look at Atlanta, and you warned me about this last week, Big T, when we talked about it, and I had the Atlanta side. The loss of DeAndre Hunter is huge for Atlanta, especially on the defensive end, and I saw the difference. And Cam Reddish, as good as he is, as talented as he is, especially if you're on Atlanta, he can frustrate you with some of his lazy defensive possessions, And I'm waiting for Lloyd Pierce to pull him as he's out there just kind of sulking around, and I didn't see it. Other guys missing tonight is Bogdanovich, of course. Rajon Rondo is going to be out, so you might not get as much offense from the Hawks side. And then Gallinari, I've seen back and forth on reports, so I'm not sure if he's in or out. So I kind of lean Dallas here, but I'm worried that I'm just being affected by the recency bias of watching their game a week ago in Atlanta, where Dallas was running away with it. So Big T, I'll start with you. What do you think here? Dallas only laying 3.5. Atlanta took a little money. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Atlanta for sure. It's a clear Atlanta play for me. Okay. Dallas last night. What kind of minutes did these guys play last night? Let me see.
Way too many because that should have been a blowout. I think they were laying 9.
They played 2 nights ago.
Won.
That's what
2 nights ago.
Okay, yeah. So I was thinking
that was against Minnesota, right?
So they played all their guys played solid minutes. Like Luka played 37 minutes. Kristaps played 31 minutes. I mean, those are the main guys you're looking at, right, Tony? Like Tim Hardaway played 29.
I don't care as much. For some reason in my head, I was thinking last night. Nights go together. I mean, I still like Atlanta. Maybe not quite as much as the second ago when I thought they played last night, Dallas. But I still like Atlanta, though. The price, I can't resist the price. I was like you, Spread, the last time they played. I liked Atlanta over Dallas a little bit. Today, the number just looks short to me, and I still like the matchups. Anytime I can play Dallas, I'm going to like these athletic dudes that can get to the rim on them with, I think, ease. You got Trey. You got John Collins can slash to the rim. You got Capella can slash to the rim. Cam Reddish is athletic. I think Dallas has trouble guarding these guys, and I'm going to stick with Atlanta. I had a ton of conviction when I thought they played last night. I still got some conviction, though. I like Atlanta, and then, like always, the money line and the spread, both.
Yeah, so an interesting thing on that last game, they doubled Trey Young pretty heavily, as soon as he got past half court, and it left it wide open for John Collins. John Collins was the reason that 3.5 quarters, I thought I was catching that bet. Finished with 34 points there. So that's something to look at and see how Lloyd Pierce continues to attack that. But like I said, really impressed with Carlisle being so aggressive, designing a defensive scheme just for a one game against a non-conference opponent. So what do you think, JSU? Are you gonna jump in there with Big T and take Atlanta, or are you like me and feeling a little worried about the last time they played in Atlanta?
Well, we got to remember too, so I think we were on the show the last time this game played, and I think we were all talking about this game. And I know I was on the Dallas side. You guys were higher on the Atlanta side.
Right.
And one thing that I was listening to Luka talk after I think the Utah game. It was either the Utah game or I forget who it was. One of the last 2 games, and he said we're fighting to get back into the playoff race, and they're like in the 13th seed or whatever it is. Like they're in the West too. So this is a tough conference here. I think Rick Carlisle is, really fighting. And I think that's why you saw that type of style defense where, normally we don't see that type of scheme and stuff until the playoffs. Like you said, like most good teams will just kind of, not do stuff like that, not hard trap and double these studs right off the gate and force others to beat you until more or less the playoffs start. But I think they're just they're falling back, and they know that they need to win some games to get back in this race. Because listen, you fall too far back in the West, you might not be able to recover in like a month or two. You know what I mean? Like, because this Western Conference is tough. So I think that's why you're seeing him maybe implement some of those defensive tactics earlier than he probably would have. It also shows you that he respects Trae Young a ton as a player, obviously, for Carlisle to do that, which is the other thing. But I think that game, the spread was like 1.5 or 2.5. I can't remember exactly when it opened up when we were talking. Now it's 3.5. I think I think Dallas still is the better team here, especially without DeAndre Hunter. So if I think Dallas probably wins, but I don't know, 3.5. I get taking the Atlanta with the points, but I do just think Dallas is an overall better team with Luka and Kristaps in there, and they have the better coach. I think one of the best coaches in the league.
Yeah, the number I gave out last week was Atlanta plus 1.5. That was the spread. We took the money line because I just felt if it landed on 1, then whatever. I'd rather just have the extra upside. So that's what I was on. So yeah, 1.5 to 3.5. But remember, this number was 4 and 4.5 last night. I actually thought it was going to go the other way. I thought it might get to 5, especially with the recency bias of us just seeing Dallas beat this Atlanta team. So 2 points for switching the arena seems about right in this new league. That being said, we have a total of 232.5. So once again, another high total. To me, high totals mean that these guys are eligible for your lineups. Who do you guys think that might sneak in there tonight?
For me, I got a sneaky play in the game too. I think Gallo coming off 25 minutes last game. He's 4,500 on DraftKings. Gallo's a talented dude against a team like Dallas, and I like him. It's not like a sexy play, but you're not going to be excited about it. But I think he could get you in the 30s for 4,500, and I like the spot a lot. If he's going to get us 25 to 30 minutes, he's going to get there because this dude likes to shoot. He likes to chuck. And the matchup's pretty good for Gallo. So somebody in the chat, too, said Dallas is dead last defensive rating last 10 games. I believe it because they can't guard. They play too many white dudes with slow feet. Like, it's just the truth. They can't guard you. It's the truth. I don't know. I mean, people get mad that I say it how it is, but it is. They got too many white dudes. It's the NBA. Like, they're slow. It's just the truth.
All right. JSU, who are you targeting for this game, if anyone?
Yeah, well, I completely agree with you that Dallas, they can't stop anyone. That's the problem. That's why they're so far down in the West right now, because their defense is terrible. It's been terrible. And maybe it has something to do with guys being in and out of the lineup, like Spread said earlier. That can mess up the chemistry of a team, and it might take a little longer. And also, too, when you're when you do that to Trae, when you implement a scheme like that, you're essentially going to leave a shooter open. Last game, it was Collins. I like the call on Gallo because Gallo might be another guy they just end up, if he's out there with Trae, he might end up getting more open looks just because all that attention's going to Trae. They're going to end up leaving a shooter open. They don't want to leave Herter or, obviously
JSU.
open.
Do you see how much he is on FanDuel?
Gallo?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
3,800. Oh, baby. 3,800.
Oh, God. And no minutes limit? That's that's confirmed, too? No minutes limit?
Saying. I mean, he played 25. Even if he gets 25 minutes, I'm fine with it. So.
No, though, you always like it.
Of course.
The player's crushing. You want that guy to be able to stay in. You know what I mean? Nothing's worse than your guy crushing and a minutes limit just pulls him out of the game, even though he's doing so good. That's like the worst thing ever. I think that this game is going to be very interesting from a DFS perspective. I like Luka. I hope that people stay away from him after Kristaps had his ceiling game of the year, like his best game by far last game. He's a good player, but I hope that makes people afraid to pay for Luka because I am definitely not afraid to pay for Luka here. I don't mind going back to Luka at this spot. So I'll take him, and I'll take, like Tony said, I'll take Gallinari at his cheap price tag. I don't mind those plays. Kevin Herter's still cheap on FanDuel. I think he's 5K. John Collins has a decent price tag. I think this game is stackable if you want to do it.
Yeah, one other thing I noticed from watching the last game, and it ticked me off because it was part of the handicap that I put into the game, and that was Clint Capella basically just being able to get loose down low. It was going exactly like I thought. He's in there blocking shots, grabbing offensive rebounds, rolling, for alley oops, and then he gets foul trouble. And I can't even be mad. I mean, they were fouls. Like, it wasn't like these were these phantom foul calls, right? I mean, he really committed the fouls, and it was just too bad. But I mean, this seems like a great matchup for him. I see him at 8,600. Is that too much for Capella?
So I get worried about Capella in matchups like this where Dallas doesn't have a true big. I like playing Capella against true bigs where he's going to be in the post more. Like if they put Porzingis at the 5, which I think they could at times, man, I worry about Capella out on the island. I do like the matchup in a way, but I get really worried if Dallas goes small or if the game goes small because he's just going to be on that island, and I don't necessarily like that. So I'm off Capella, but I can see what you say, why you would like it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally thought that's who I'd have in tonight, but 8,600 seems high for a center, and I heard you guys talking, right? Centers can be stacked sometimes. So
centers are so good. It's tough to waste your center spot.
Yeah, especially at 8,600, right? If I'm not valuing and paying up for another guy. But what do you think, JSU? Would I be crazy if I threw Capella in a couple lineups?
I mean, crazy, no. His price has finally come down to somewhat of a reasonable price tag on some of these sites where before he was close to that, like, 9K. I know on FanDuel at one point he was like over 10K. So his price has come down a little, but I think my leans would be more like John Collins or, Gallinari, like Tony said. I think those are like the secondary pieces from Atlanta that I'm looking for if I'm not going to like Trae Young and taking, a shot with a stud like Trae Young. I think it'd be those guys because I think they're going to end up being left open for jump shots. I mean, obviously, you're not going to want to give up those rolls. They're going to try and stop, those easy buckets with Capella. They're going to force them into other guys taking jump shots if they're going to force the ball out of Trae Young's hands. That even hurts Capella too, because what Trae Young does to get Capella open is he gets in the lane and then he pulls that defender away from the hoop, which gets that pass. Yeah. If they're going to force the ball out of his hands early, that kind of hurts Capella. Capella's going to have to do more one-on-one to get his shot or offensive rebound and put back. So that's the one thing I worry about here. If he's not getting those offensive rebounds and putbacks, where's his offense coming if they're forcing Trae Young to get the ball out of his hands before he can get into the paint?
Does that mean Trae's going to be a fade for you guys, not in any lineups?
I mean, I like Trae.
Yeah, I prefer Luka. If I'm going, he's 10-1 on FanDuel, 9,900 on DraftKings. I'd prefer Luka if I had to choose. But again, I don't make a ton of lineups, so it's not like, I can just have a bunch of him and a bunch of Luka. Like, that's not really how I go about it. So if I had to choose one, I'm choosing Luka.
This is like one of those spots where, so the dude in the chat said, what's the run back? I think you can exploit people a lot. At least that's what I've been doing, where everyone these days wants the run back. You don't always need a run back. There's been more blowouts this year. There's been more weird games where one side crushes, the other side doesn't. I don't think you need a run back. I know for years we've preached that you need run backs. Like all these big hits I've had no run backs with my guys. So what it does, it gets you unique. And if you bank the right script, you're going to be way, way out in front of people. I don't think you need the run back. And I think we can leverage the spot based on everyone thinks you need a run back. So if you really like Luka and you don't like Trae, don't be scared to not run it back. We like Gallo too, so maybe you play Gallo, but not even using this game as the full example. Don't be afraid to just play 2 or 3 guys from one team and not run it back. I think it's really big leverage against the field right now.
Especially when you're talking about teams where the guys you're definitely going to want to target, like let's take Dallas, for example, though. Let's say you like Atlanta, right? Like let's say you want 3 guys from Atlanta. the guys who you'd want to bring it back with, they're going to be expensive. Kristaps and Luka, those are the two guys you're going to want. And maybe you don't want to pay those price tags. Maybe you just rather go a different route with a different stud. Who knows? Maybe you want Jokic. And going Jokic, who might be lower owned than both those Dallas guys, maybe that gets you an extra 5 or 10, and he makes you unique and passes a team because you didn't have the run back. Those teams had the run back, and Jokic ended up scoring 5 more points than Luka. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm saying this is the type of thing you need to think about, because a lot of people nowadays, like Tony said, want the run back. They just, I got 3 guys. I need a run back. I need 1 or 2 guys from the other side. Well, we know the 1 or 2 guys they're going to. So you can exploit this in tournaments and say, I know everyone's going to have Luka if they have my build with 3 Atlanta guys. So I'm going to play Jokic or Giannis or whoever else is up there. And I'm going to have the similar build, but a different stud to make me unique, lower owned.
It's a great example with the Atlanta side too. Like, great example, because Dallas is an easy fade team. You got the Atlanta blowout. You got the Atlanta close game where maybe Luka gets 50 and Porzingis gets 40. That's still good. Like, that's still good with a fade. You can still outscore those points. You have lots of paths, and like we always say, nothing is more important than getting yourself on a path other people aren't going. Like, it's just the most important thing in my mind.
All right. Well, this next game, I don't know if we'll have as many DFS options, but I think it's a great game from a handicapping perspective. It's actually the article I wrote for Run Pure subscribers. Not the sexiest game, but I think it's a great matchup. Charlotte heading to Memphis, right? 2 teams heading in different directions. Charlotte's off a 2-game winning streak, albeit against Washington and Houston, but they won both games by more than 20. Memphis on a 4-game losing streak here. Charlotte getting 4 points in Memphis. I was a little surprised to see that was the line. I have it aligned a little closer. JSU, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte, to me, I've said this for a few weeks. I think Charlotte is actually a solid team. I think Borrego is a pretty solid coach. Pretty sure he comes from Greg Popovich, who's one of his assistants, comes from that coaching style or whatever. And I just think the tighter rotations that they're using, obviously their main guy down with Devontae Graham, but I honestly think it kind of helps them. It keeps their rotation almost in check, where guys like LaMelo Ball can see a few more minutes. Terry Rozier's more locked in as a scorer. He doesn't need to play make when LaMelo's not out there. He can be who he is, which is a scorer. LaMelo is the playmaker. Like, it's perfect for them. When Devontae's in there, it's like, okay, we got 3 guards, so 2 of them are in at the same time. Sometimes all 3 of them are in. And I think it gets confusing a little bit because all 3 of them have the skills to score, to play make. But one is just better than the other at all of those things. LaMelo is definitely better of a playmaker than both of those guys. Those 2 guys might be better scorers right now in the NBA, but that's just different. And I think when they're all in there, it kind of gets a little confusing. It's like, okay, I got the ball now. Then you get it next. Like, it's like the thing that Harden and Kyrie and KD kind of do when they all play. It's like, you get the ball, then I get the ball, and we'll kind of like trade off. It's like, no, LaMelo runs the ball, Romelo runs the point, and I think they're better off that way. I think Borrego is seeing it clearly right now that they're much better off with LaMelo just being the main point guard and having those other guards be like the scoring options. And then guys like Cody Zeller are playing good. Miles Bridges off the bench has been playing really good. They just got a decent team with a bunch of young guys that are playing hard. Gordon Hayward has been playing out of his mind. I like the Charlotte side. I'll take the points. And honestly, to tell you the truth, I really like this game for DFS.
Really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love the price tags on some of these guys. And I think this is going to be a lower owned game stack that will be kind of sneaky in DFS. So this is a spot where some people might look at the game and just discard it because maybe they don't like the 2 teams. Maybe they think some of the price tags are a little much for some of these guys. But I kind of look at the opposite way and say, Memphis on the other side, without Melton, without Clark, this was the first time I've seen all year, well, at least in a while anyways, Memphis give their starters all big run. They all saw 34-plus minutes. pretty much. Dylan Brooks saw the most minutes, I'm pretty sure, all year. He saw like 37. John Morant saw 36. Joe Val saw 34. Kyle Anderson, I think, saw 34, 32, whatever it was. So, like, okay, now you're giving me these guys at somewhat lower price tags than they should be on most of these sites, and you're giving me them playing the ceiling minutes that we want them playing. This is when I want these guys, and I hope people don't catch on to it as fast.
Yeah, just a couple points about what you're saying. People forget that before Gordon Hayward went to Boston Celtics and was like the third fiddle there, that he carried that Utah team in a really tough Western Conference and was a bona fide All-Star in the West. So I think, you know, you do have to give Hayward his credit. And on LaMelo, man, I was wondering how his teammates were going to respond to this cocky young kid coming in, right? Doesn't play a lot of defense. But when they're getting the ball in the position that they're getting with the passes that he's making, they seem to love him, right? I mean, you can come in and be cocky all you want, but if you're feeding your teammates and giving them opportunities to score as well, I mean, he leads the team with 6.2 assists per game. So I think that definitely helped him in the locker room. So now that we're done giving Charlotte all this love, Big T, do you want to come in and take the other side, or are you going to join us?
No, I think we've all been high on Charlotte, and I love Charlotte. Might be the most underrated team in all of basketball when you factor in they got a bunch of dudes, like you guys both said. And just to pick up on LaMelo from where you left off, I mean, who wouldn't like to play with this guy? He brings an energy with the basketball. He gets everyone involved. He has fun. I mean, you want to play with dudes that have fun. You don't want to play with miserable guys out there. Yeah, he's going to make some dumb plays here and there, but he's getting better. He's just, I mean, you see when they make a big play and they go to a timeout and their chest ball, they like each other. They genuinely like playing with each other, which helps. And Hayward was in that spot where I don't think he had fun playing in Boston. He's kind of out of jail a little bit. And with these guys, Rozier, same thing. This team just likes each other. I mean, when LaMelo throws a dunk or a oop to Miles Bridges, the whole team erupts. Like the bench is up. The players are up. I love it. I love Charlotte. I can't believe Charlotte's getting points. This is another spot where I'll take Charlotte +4. I'll take the money line. I think they're a better team. I'm like way lower on Memphis than the field. I know they've played good at times. I just look at the roster and, like always, if I just put both of these teams on paper, Charlotte is better. So why are they a dog? There's no fans. I don't understand why they're a dog. And I've been good with these games since we've been doing this show the last couple of weeks. Every time I say this, I think I've won the game.
I love it.
I don't understand why they have better players. Why are they an underdog? Like, can you guys explain it to me? Home court doesn't mean anything. They're better.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why it was a game that I chose to write about, because it was the line that stood out to me the most as just
as far as an odd
this
maker,
is way
though,
different than my numbers. And unlike the Dallas-Atlanta game where I can say, okay, this is why it's different than my numbers, I can, explain narrative-wise, like why my number is coming up with something different than their number. I couldn't come up with anything easier. And, I mean, LaMelo's one of those guys, you got to be energetic on offense because the ball could end up in your hands at any time, right? I mean, he's got all types of awesome passing angles. So I see we're all on the same side here.
I don't get it. Like, I genuinely don't get it. Like, you're looking at – I mean, Memphis is relying on Kyle Anderson, Desmond Bain. I mean,
wait till you read my article, Big T. You're going to love it.
I can't wait to read it because I literally don't get it. Grayson Allen? I mean, this team sucks. Why are they favored?
Yeah, well, now this comes back to my point for DFS. I think they realized with some of their key bench guys out, they just can't run those scrubs big minutes, and that's why the key starters all saw big minutes for the first time really all season last game, or in a while at least, like not in the last 10 games. I'm telling you, go back and look. Have these these main guys seen big minutes? And I think that's why. So I think for DFS, it comes back to my point where if you're looking at value and price tags for minutes, these guys are all in play, in my opinion. But to come back to the betting point,
some Memphis guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
J Val at 7,300.
Yeah, J Val 74 or John Morant 70. What did you say? 1, 2, whatever he is. Is cheap. Dylan Brooks in the mid to low 5Ks is cheap. Like, I'm definitely going to have some Memphis exposure, and it fits with my Charlotte exposure because, like, I can easily get a guy like LaMelo or Gordon Hayward to fit in with those studs from Memphis, and maybe I take a cheap guy like PJ Washington to fill it out, or Miles Bridges, or something like that to kind of fill out my team. But I just think it works, and all these guys are seeing big minutes. So give me the minutes, give me decent price tags on them. I'm in for it. But from the spread standpoint, I have no idea why they're a dog. It makes no sense to me. This team's been playing so good. I don't know. I don't get what they're seeing. I honestly think that they should be favored. Like Big T said, I think they should be favored by like 2 points. So I just don't get it.
It should be like a -1. It looks like a classic -1 game to me, like the home team -1 or +1, like one of those, not 4.
If you run a model, though, that 7-game win streak that Memphis ran just threw their number through the roof. So that's what I'm thinking. If these guys are just running the model, not really going for anything else, this is what the model is going to tell you. So I wasn't surprised about that. Big T, you talked about taking different paths, and I know center is so tough, but Valanciunas coming off a 20-rebound game at 7,400. What if I try and snuck him in there and got rid of that Capella guy out of my lineup?
Yeah, I'm not playing Valanciunas. Like we had all the camaraderie where we were agreeing on Memphis. I can play Ja for sure.
Did you hear Big T talk about slow white guys? He doesn't like slow white guys.
20 rebounds, right? I mean, I would put up points, right?
I'd like Valanciunas is the perfect example of a guy that JSU talked about his minutes. If you guaranteed me that he's going to play 34 again, like I would love him. I'd be all. I just don't. He doesn't get that many very often. So if you have conviction on minutes, absolutely play him. Like, of course, play him because he's going to crush if he plays. Some games and this is one of those matchups where Charlotte doesn't have that many. I mean, Cody Zeller's their only
they've been playing Cody Zeller a good amount of minutes.
They've been playing him a lot. I agree.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if they go small, Valanciunas, this game could go small. Like
I don't think they're going to, though. I think that Cody Zeller is the guy they want out there as long as he's not in foul trouble. Now, to your point, if Cody Zeller were to get in foul trouble, then maybe J-Val loses minutes if he's not on the court as much. So I guess that's another thing to worry about. I agree with you. The minutes are always kind of up and down, it seems, with J-Val. But with them missing those key guys from the bench unit, I just think they need his scoring. I just think they have no choice. Like, he is just such a better offensive player, and they need that offensive output. He's not as good on defense, but he's a really good rebounder, and he's really good finishing around the rim, and they need that right now. With Ja kind of still getting it looks like he's still kind of getting his legs under him. He's still a little rusty from the whole layoff and everything like that. But I mean, he's Ja. Like, I think he's going to be fine. I think he's ultimately a stud in the NBA, and he's just going to go back to that eventually. But J-Val is definitely a much more polished, like, offensively. You tell me this guy can get you 20 and 20 any night he wants to if he's getting 30-plus minutes. That's the type of upside you have with J-Val.
He's always a good tournament play, too, because when he goes off, he goes off. When he sucks, too, because he doesn't play minutes. But in tournaments, we don't care about that floor. We only care about the ceiling, and he always gives you a ceiling.
All right. The next game is a game, we talked about modeling. I have it higher than the spread, but I didn't want to lay it because it's the Clippers -10.5 at Minnesota, open at 8.5. So you already missed the best of the number. Not necessarily surprised that they are taking money with basically, the two public perceptions of best team in the West. Well, not counting Utah, versus the worst team in the West here. But even at 10.5, even though my model tells me to take it, I didn't bet it. The total went from 226 to 223, and we did have some injury news that we're not sure of. So JSU told me before we started that Paul George is out for sure. Doubt we'll have Towns and maybe not a Russell, and maybe that's the reason that this line moved. But what do you think, Big T? Are we just going to pass over this game? We don't want to get involved in these 10-point spreads, or do you think the Clippers can blow them out?
I mean, you know me too well right now. I hate these spreads. I hate these 10-point games where, sure, if the Clippers come to play, they'll cover without a doubt. But if they don't come to play, Minnesota, it just always feels like a coin flip to me, unless somehow there's conviction, which obviously tonight I don't know. And I think you can move that to DFS too, where Kawhi Leonard is going to be one of the most popular plays on the slate without a doubt because Paul George is out. Yeah, if he has conviction and he plays, he's the best play on the board, and I agree with that. It's kind of like the Boogie situation. But if I know anything about Kawhi, this dude loves to coast in easy spots. Like, He loves to just go through the motions when he doesn't have to do anything. Yeah, he's a great play. This is kind of the leverage spots that I've been taking advantage of lately, where I fade him, and all these chalk guys like our boy Mangone will play the optimal, and they'll always end up with him, which is fine. That's what they're trying to do, hit the cash games. But when this guy gets even 40, your whole night is wide open because everyone has him 50% owned, and he just didn't get there for you. Again, what I'm saying, he's a great play. He's the best play probably on the board as far as projections. But you need conviction from him, and I don't know if you get that. Whereas I think I can pivot to a low-owned Sweet Lou, who we've finally seen turn the corner a little bit. If I'm the Clippers, you know what I want to do? I want to get my scorer going off the bench because I know I'm going to need him down the road, and I'm getting a great matchup versus Minnesota to play a guy like Sweet Lou and give him 20. I mean, how many shots did he shoot last game? He shot 16 shots last game, 10 the game before. If he gets 16 shots again against Minnesota or more, the dude has a chance to totally crush. His price point isn't cheap. If you go to the projections, he's not going to pop, which is my favorite because no one's going to play him. DFS NBA has gotten to the point where it's amazingly easy. Anytime you go to the projections and a guy like Lou Williams is projected bad, you just know no one's going to play him because everyone just goes and clicks the optimize button. So I know for sure I can get Sweet Lou low-owned against Minnesota. Sign me up for that. And that's really all I'm interested in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Lou Williams can be an honorary Timberwolf the way that he scores without playing defense. JSU, I think Big T makes a good point where the Clippers could be comfortably leading this whole game, right, where it never feels like it's in jeopardy watching the game, yet they don't cover, because it's, they're ahead by 8, they're ahead by 9, they're ahead by 12, and it's just bouncing around that 10.5 number. So that was why we were staying away. What do you think? Are you're gonna be the only guy to jump in on this game?
No. So I just don't like this game at all. Minnesota plays no defense. Their offense is not very good either. Obviously, Towns is still out, or he's doubtful to play, so he's probably going to be out. Who knows with Russell, even though he's a detriment on defense, so it really ends up he doesn't even make the team that much better, in my opinion. Offensively, he does, but defensively, he definitely does not. So I just think this game is going to be a blowout. And I don't know from a DFS side if I want a piece of it. From a betting side, I'm not going to take the points with the I'm not going to, take the points with the Clippers or anything like that. I'd probably just stay away from the game in general. But even from a DFS side, like Kawhi's going to be really popular. Tony kind of already touched on it. And I don't know. I just, in this matchup, if you guarantee me this game stayed close, like guaranteed, you're like 100% this game stays close. Kawhi Leonard probably has a really, really good game. I just don't trust that this game is definitely going to stay close the way Minnesota plays defense. So it's just a stay away on all fronts for me.
All right, and that totally makes sense. So let's go ahead and move on to two teams that I want to fade, but they're playing each other, and that's the Indiana Pacers, who just, struggled with injuries. And boy, we see how much Oladipo really meant to that team. Going against the Brooklyn Nets without Kevin Durant, and boy, talk about not being able to defend. The Nets look like the Timberwolves on defense. I jumped in live last night thinking that they would come back against the lowly Detroit Pistons, and I mean they just couldn't get a stop. I mean they're getting worked by Jeremiah Grant and Mason Plumlee. It's like, what is going on here? Obviously they can score, but if they're not, if Harden and Kyrie aren't above 50% from the floor, it's almost like this team has no chance. Same time, I mean, Indiana, I love this team at the beginning of the year. I was really riding them. But, then that trade came, and obviously we thought, oh, well, LeVert's going to be just as good on the offensive end as Oladipo and only like a slight defensive loss. Well, he hasn't even played a minute yet. And as impressed as I was, by some of the guys that were taking his place, like, the Holiday brothers and Sumner, who I don't see on the projections here, which kind of surprised me. They're just not able to get it done. So I didn't know what to make of this game because these are two teams that are both on my fade list. Big T, are you going to go ahead and take a stand on this game?
So Brooklyn's been the team that's made me all the money because
you go against them.
Sometimes just feel easy. Like when you're in the zone, you're in the zone. Like when MJ just held his arms up like that time.
Yeah.
Like people aren't targeting Brooklyn. They play zero defense. They have no rim protection, and they can score the other way. That's the perfect combo for DFS, and people just aren't targeting it. And tonight, I mean, we're going to talk more on the two DFS shows, by the way. I don't want to go too far in it, but Sabonis and Brogdon are just mortal locks, basically, to me. I mean, they're playing the Nets that don't play any D, and their prices. Brogdon, I shit on Brogdon last week, but he's 7,400 against the Nets. That's just easy. That's a free square. And Sabonis is under 9K versus the same team that has no bigs. That's what we call easy. Like, just play them. The only way you don't crush is what? A blowout or an injury. Like, that's the only way you don't crush. And then, so those two are locks. And then all of a sudden you go to the other side. You got the two guards, Kyrie and Harden, that can go off versus anybody. You got to run. I'm not saying you have to play them both like last night, but that gets you unique. I don't even know what the salary is. I haven't built the team. We'll dive into more of the DFS. But if you can somehow fit all four of those guys, I have no issue, again, going right back to it because I'm confident Brooklyn's always going to score on people, always. Harden and Kyrie, no matter who they play. I don't care. Could be anybody. I'm confident they're going to score. And I'm damn sure Sabonis and Brogdon are going to score on the net. So it's just an easy. I can't wait to hear what JSU says because it feels way too
quick,
easy.
Though. The DFS seems easy, but I think picking this game is hard.
Yeah, I don't
go
like
ahead
the
and
game
give me
as
a
far
lead.
as – I think a lot of people like Indiana, but I think it's like a 2-on – I know it's 5-on-5 always basketball, but it's the two stars versus the two stars in my mind. Maybe one of the role players steps up and wins it, but as far as betting, I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah, it's a tough game to call, definitely. JSU, do you want to jump in there? And I know we're supposed to be giving out picks here, and we're just saying this is a tough game.
I tried to not dive into DFS too much, but
no, it's great. But I thought this is a really tough slate compared to. I think now that we're 20 games in, models are really. If you're making your own model, it's really close to what the books are putting out. So if you don't have a reason why your number's different, sometimes it's hard to get on a side. So hopefully JSU's got that for us. What do you think? Are you going to jump in on take Indiana or Brooklyn here?
Yeah. So, man, Brooklyn is just, I mean, you guys talked about it. They might be the worst team defensively in the NBA. And Minnesota and them they're fighting each other for the worst.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the stat? Like where it's like 9 straight games giving up over 120?
Yeah, no,
like that's insane.
Ridiculous. So this is the typical what the Nets are is perfect example. Last night I'm watching the game. It's towards the end of the game. It's crucial. It's the fourth quarter. Kyrie's in the corner and he's just staring at the ball. And all of a sudden the dribbler dribbles over to his side. He's still staring. His defender just back cuts and the bounce pass and he dunks the ball. Kyrie's still standing there. He turns around and looks at Harden, who was his help defense. Yeah. And they look each other like, and just walk down the court. I'm like, this is the worst. Like these two guys literally don't play defense. Like they look like they fall asleep sometimes where you're like, hello, like wake up, dude. What are you doing right now? Like that should never happen. Never. Especially when you're not like hugged on the guy in the corner. You're not like all over him. He was like 3 steps back on the guy. So it's perfect example of though how terrible. If you watch that play and you know anything about basketball, and any coach that should never happen. Ever in the NBA. You should never just give that play up like that. No help, nothing. Just it was terrible. And that's how they've been playing. It's a perfect example. And I think I would take Indiana just based off of the fact that I just don't think Brooklyn has a shot to stop Indiana on the offensive end. Like I don't think they can do it. So yeah, I'll take Indiana. I think Brooklyn can somewhat keep this game close. I think from a DFS side, agree with Tony 100%. And I will say, Tony, you talked about you shit on Brogdon for like a week now, but man, the DFS sites are shitting on him right now. 7,400 against the best matchup in the NBA. I think the DFS sites are shitting on him more than you are, buddy. So I'm sitting there. You're talking about shitting on him. I'm like, dude, the DraftKings is shitting on him right now. He's 7,400 in the best spot he could absolutely be in. We saw DeLon Wright put it on this team last night. I like both the bigs too. Like, I think Miles Turner at 6K is fine. Like, I know he's not a guy that you don't love as a player. I know he's slow-footed, all that stuff.
I hate Turner so much.
I'm just saying, though, this guy has upside. And for tournaments, you talked about it. We don't care too much about the floor, and the minutes have been up and down.
I don't like the matchup either, though, for him.
So you don't like him because he's not a physical big down low.
And he's just easy for guys like Jeff Green to. Like, I think Jeff Green can guard him. Like, I just really don't like the matchup.
I also think that he could give Brooklyn problems on the defensive end, like down low.
He can definitely give them problems on defense for sure.
I think he could be someone who, blocks and steals are so, it's a ridiculous stat to say like, oh, for sure this guy is just in such a good spot. But I think he could really affect shots in the paint against this team, especially guys like Kyrie and Harden who want to get into the teeth of the defense and create and make plays. So
that's where his upside is for sure. He could have. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he had friggin' like 10 blocks. Like he could have a ton of blocks.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just one of those things. Though I'm not saying he's a great player. I'm just saying this game stack is for sure a good game stack, and I hope people don't go to it again. Like hopefully people don't target Brooklyn. Like Tony said, we'll talk about it more on the shows. But from a betting side, I definitely trust Indiana, and that's saying something after the way Indiana's been playing without Oladipo. That's saying something over Brooklyn.
All right, well, on the spirit of bad defense, let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. They're hosting the New Orleans Pelicans here. Boy, they can't defend either. I had them the other night. It felt stupid. They couldn't even beat Washington. Only put up 101 against a Washington team that couldn't defend. So I wasn't surprised that they were giving up all those points. It was just that they weren't able to take advantage of it. And we had talked about it, Big T. That was coming off them crushing Orlando. So I'm not really sure what to make of this Chicago team. New Orleans was a team that I was really down on. I think, if you go back and watch the show from 2 weeks ago, I was just sitting there saying Stan Van Gundy was the worst coach in the NBA, that the roster wasn't, put together right. And they have definitely figured things out in New Orleans. They are on how many game win streak? A 4-game win streak, with wins over, the aforementioned Indiana and a nice Phoenix win. And of course they beat Memphis and then Houston. Houston doesn't say much, but the fact that they won by 29 and it was never in jeopardy, I think is a good sign for this team. So I don't know. I like New Orleans here. Again, I just hate to take these road favorites, but we talked about it earlier. No crowd, maybe not as a big a deal. What do you think, JSU? Are you going to join me on the Pelicans?
Yeah. What's the spread again in that game?
They're laying 3.
They're laying 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Bulls, man. So, they're down a bunch of, I would say, somewhat key offensive guys, especially Lauri Markkanen, who was shooting the ball really well before he went out with the injury. Otto Porter's a guy who can give you some scoring off the bench. Wendell Carter, decent big for what they have anyways. He's much better than like Gafford and Felicio and, those guys, obviously. So, definitely the injuries are hurting them a little bit. But Levine is the key to that team. And when he's ultimately, like, as aggressive as possible, they're better off for it. And I just think he needs to continue that with those guys out. So he's someone who can always keep a team in a game. But this is a spot where I don't love targeting against the Pelicans. I would probably take the Pelicans here with the points. I think they win this game. Also, too, I think the Pelicans are just a better team overall. Their style of play is just different, but they get it done.
Yeah, I think roster-wise, they're so much better. And then, we look at them, you talked about Porter and Carter, great players, but they're losing so much on the defensive end. I think on the offensive end, they're okay without them. But on the defensive end, really, really struggling. So one thing too
that I was kind of interested in was Washington last game against the Bulls. The Bulls played Thaddeus Young at center a good bit during the game.
That was their best lineup.
And I expected Washington to match it and go small with like Rui at the 5 or Burt. They didn't do that. They kept like a true center on the court. And I was actually really shocked. I really wonder with the Pels having Steven Adams and then Tony's going to obviously talk about that. His probably his favorite player in the NBA now, Willie Hernan Gomez, or Gomez, as we're gonna anoint him now. With those two guys, playing most of the center minutes for this team, who the heck is going to stop those guys down low if they play? I mean, Thad Young, he's a decent defender, but he can't match the size of Willie Hernan Gomez down low or Steven Adams. Like, they're going to eat if they decide to play big against this team with those two guys down low. They have no one to stop them.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't that seem like a formula for maybe some Zion highlight dunk? So,
yeah.
What do you think, Big T? Are you joining us on the Pelicans? Or are you going to take the home dog and sprinkle the money line?
Yeah, I kind of like the dog, but I
knew you would.
I don't have a ton of conviction. It sounds like I'm taking the cop out, but like I like New Orleans better as a dog too. I don't ever like them as a favorite.
Right.
I don't like the Bulls either, though. The Bulls, they let whatever game 2 days ago when we were talking about who?
It was the Wizards.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've seen in my head Zach LaVine miss that layup against Alex Len to tie.
And then he wanted a foul too. Yeah. Like, stop whining, finish
terrible.
The bucket.
Yeah.
But yeah,
why didn't he try and dunk it on him too?
Yeah.
Why didn't he try and dunk it? You're Zach LaVine. What are you doing?
It was
dunk the ball.
Move, and then he wanted a foul. Like, get out of here, LaVine. That was weak.
That's what he gets for being weak.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe that was so weak. But yeah, I mean, I don't love the Bulls either, so it's not going to be like a play on the sheet or anything. But I would lean Bulls if I had to. As far as fantasy, though, I don't like to target New Orleans all that much. If it would be LaVine for sure. But like, I don't like him more than some of the other guards in his price range. So doubt I go there. And I mean, Big Willie style yesterday was my key guy, 1% owned. And what do you know? DFS, he comes back the next day in just as good a spot, and his price goes down to $3,400. So yesterday on the show, like I said he had a higher floor than people think because he had played 28, 19, 18, and 18 minutes. Like, if you guarantee me he's going to play 18 minutes, I think that's a pretty good floor for a guy of his skill level against Washington or against Chicago. But if he gets lucky, and this is what I said yesterday, and he only played 24 minutes yesterday, so it wasn't like he got crazy lucky. But if you get lucky and it blows out and he gets all the late run, you got a chance to get 40, I said, and he ended up with 38. It's the same thing always with him. If you guarantee me 18 minutes, he's going to give me a floor, which is fine. The dude is 3,400. If he gets me 14, it's not going to kill me. Whatever. It's fine. It'll get the studs in. But if he gets that extended run and gets 38 like yesterday, you are going to just print money because he'll be a little higher owned tonight, though, after yesterday's game. But he's still not going to be crazy owned because he's a center.
Yeah, well, speaking of centers, that leads us right into our next game with your favorite center. It's the Denver Nuggets. They're laying 9.5 at home to Cleveland Cavaliers, who are on a 4-game losing streak. But let's be fair, the losses are to the Clippers, 2 to the Bucks, and to the Phoenix Suns. So it's not like they're out here losing to terrible teams like the Chicago Bulls were. Denver, on the other hand, just lost to Milwaukee. I wasn't surprised that they lost that game. I was surprised at how comfortably Milwaukee lost that game. And then a game, that I couldn't believe, and that was them losing to the Sacramento Kings after the loss to the Lakers. So they're coming in on a 3-game losing streak too. The books have definitely, accounted for it. I got this at 11, but that's not much of an edge here when you're dealing with these double-digit spreads. And, I really am not too excited to get involved in this game. Just because, we talked about how we don't like the bigger spreads. So, JSU, do you think that the Nuggets just blow them out, and are you going to lay the 10, or do you think Cleveland can finally turn around and get it close?
Cleveland's not like – they're a decent team. They've been a decent team, top 15 defensively somewhat. So they're not, terrible or anything like that. They started Jaren Allen last game, which was kind of interesting. I wonder if they do the big lineup again with him and Drummond together. So it was kind of interesting to see how they played together. I don't know if it was – they definitely have to play a little bit more together maybe to get a little more used to both of them being on the court at the same time because that was different than what they've been doing. So, but that was interesting. I think, honestly, they are with Nance out right now, Jared Allen is a good basketball player. And he's a good big, and he shouldn't be sitting on the bench for 30 to 32 of the 48 minutes on the floor. So he definitely deserves more run. It was just interesting to see them start and play together. I wonder if Denver plays big. It would make sense for them to just do it again. They got Paul Millsap and MPJ and JaMychal Green, and Jared Allen is athletic enough, in my opinion, to guard, if he has to guard, a Paul Millsap outside, a JaMychal Green, who likes to try and extend the floor and shoot those threes. Paul Millsap in the corner, JaMychal Green on the outside perimeter. So it will be interesting to see what they do, but it's not a game that I want to bet. If I had to lean, I'd probably actually take the points with Cleveland, because Denver really struggles against guards, and Colin Sexton, man, he can score. Like, that dude, he doesn't do a ton else, but man, he can score with the best of them. I think they might struggle guarding Colin Sexton. Not a game I want to target for DFS outside of maybe a low-owned Jokic. Like I said, as like a pivot. If you're game stacking the game, but you want a different stud, maybe Jokic is the low-owned stud.
All right. Well, Big T, we already know that you hate these big spreads, so I'm just going to ask you two questions. First one, how do you think Jokic will do against Drummond? And second question, is it true that Michael Porter Jr. is becoming more and more unpopular with his teammates? Let's go. Your thoughts.
I don't think MPJ's ever been popular with his teammates. Jokic I know for a fact, 100% fact, Jokic has always hated him, which is a big issue why it's never worked, because Malone hates him and Jokic hates him. So even though he's talented, your coach and your best player hate the guy. It's tough to be successful. It really is. Like, even when he hits shots, you'll see Jokic like do his little flail body language thing where he gets mad and then he said something. So I love MPJ, but it just might not be the right situation for him in Denver. It hasn't worked out, and people keep playing him. And yeah, he can get there because he's talented, but I'm off the bandwagon until something changes. It's just not working. It's just that simple. I agree with JSU. I mean, Spread knows me too good by now. Yeah. We've only done 4 or 5 shows together, but he knows, like, I'm never going to lay 10 in this spot. If I'm ever doing anything, it's always going to be the dog in this spot. I hardly ever take the favorite when it's 10, 11. A game with no motive. The only time I would lay 10 is if it's like a big game and the spread looks a little too high. Like, I don't know what the situation is right now, but the Lakers versus the Clippers or something, that's a bad example. But 2 good teams where the game means something and the spread I think would be 5 and it comes out 9, then I would lay the 9 or something.
Well, yeah, I want to give you an example here, and we'll just move on. I mean, because we've been rocking and rolling. But I think this is a game where you can consider laying the points, and that's the Lakers laying 12 against the Thunder. And we just talked about all the reasons that you wouldn't want to do it. But here would be the reasons why I want to do it. I'm looking at the players listed as out or doubtful. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, George Hill, Theo Maledon, Mike Muscala. So, before the show, JSU told me that we'll probably get some Kenrick Williams at point. I mean, is this a spot where we might want to lay it?
I still don't love it, but I like it more than the other one. I mean, the thing about the Lakers is Al Horford's going to play good D, and the rest of these dudes are going to play defense. You're the one that got me on them, Spread. Like, these dudes, they play hard. Like, it's that simple. Like, they just play hard. Yeah, again, the same thing as the Clippers game. Like, if the Lakers want to win by 20, they'll win by 20. But I don't know how much motivation they got to really pound this team. And I don't know. I just don't like the big spreads. And as far as DFS, though, like, we're still at 8 guys for this OKC team. So when they're only at 8 guys, we don't usually –
you don't have to worry about minutes.
That's what I mean.
They're all going to get run.
Roby's 3,700. He's going to play into the 30s. I mean, Al Horford, 6,200. He's going to play minutes. Diallo, 65. He's going to play minutes. If the team only has 8 dudes and one of them is Darius Miller and one of them is Justin Jackson, you're going to get minutes. Like, it's just the way it is. So you have to like OKC a little bit DFS-wise.
All right, JSU, so what do you think here? I'm just going back to those Cleveland games when they were missing Sexton and Garland, and they had like Chetty Osman running their point, because they were all injured. It just seems like it's so tough to overcome. Would I be crazy if I laid it here? What are your thoughts on this game and the spread?
I mean, I think OKC has been playing really well for missing all these guys. And it's been like a few different guys here and there, like the past few games. And they've still, just like Tony said, they have played so hard in these games with all these guys out. And these are young guys, most of them besides like Al Horford, obviously. So they're giving it everything they have. Diallo, Kenrich Williams. I know it's not the ideal scenario for like point guards, but man, they have been playing decent for having to get thrust into roles that they're not accustomed to. Like these aren't normal. They're not used to, bringing the ball up and setting the offense up. But it's just funny that like against the Lakers, you look at that game 2 nights ago or whatever. Like LeBron in the first half, it literally looked like he didn't care. And then in the second half, all of a sudden, he just like they were down and he was just like, okay, now I'm just going to turn it on. He just turned it on. He ended up, having obviously a great game finishing. But if you watch that first half, you would have been like, oh, where was LeBron? Like, what was he doing the first half? Why did he turn it on in the second half? And why didn't he just turn it on in the first half too? They would have probably beaten them by 10 or 15. But I just don't see the motivation. And again, I'm going to say the same thing. I just don't see it. And then AD being out hurts them a little defensively. Like, we'll see. If AD's out, I definitely like OKC a lot more than the Lakers, even with all their guys out.
Yeah, I just worry about the ball handling. I mean, I just remember that Cleveland team who I really like. I mean, they just couldn't get into their sets at all. So that should be a fun one. Like with the double-digit spreads, there's no need to get involved, especially when you can live bet these games as well. So this final game,
you bring up a good point though with the smothering. Like the Lakers can smother you like very few teams can. Like if they really want to just lock OKC up, OKC might score like 80 points. Like it's definitely in the equation.
In a high-paced game too.
But they just don't care. That's the problem. Is the Lakers don't care. I get it.
They can win at 70% effort though. So I mean, they can
win it. Can they like beat them by 30, like 20? Like I don't know.
They might win by 20 with only scoring like 95. It might be a game from like the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, Al Horford running point center here. So the last game on our card here, this is by far, if you're just an NBA fan and you're not betting, you're not playing DFS, this is the game you want to see. It's Milwaukee heading to Phoenix, and Milwaukee is on a fantastic win streak. Let's look at their last 5 wins. 28 over Portland, 20 over Indiana, 18 over Cleveland, 25 over Cleveland, and then 13 over Denver. This Milwaukee team has finally found something. Even with Drew Holiday out against the Nuggets, they looked fantastic. The Phoenix team, hey, though, they're finding it as well, too. They're on a little 3-game win streak. They won by 17 in Detroit, by 9 against Boston, and then they just won by 6 against Cleveland. So they did not cover that game that closed at 6.5, but they were able to get the victory. So Milwaukee's laying 4 here. I know that you love the home dogs, Big T, but I was kind of thinking of rolling with the road favorite. What do you think about my Bucks love here?
Yeah, I don't have a ton of conviction, but I lean Bucks with you. Phoenix, I like Phoenix. This is just a good game. You said it best. Yeah. I don't have strong conviction. I'll enjoy watching it, and honestly, I don't have a ton of conviction DFS wise too. So it might be just I know people are going to play Middleton with Drew out, Giannis with Drew out, some of these cheap guys with Drew out, but I don't like it quite as much. Like a lot of people will go to Augustine, but I like CP3 and Book on D. I mean, they're solid on D. Phoenix is just a good team, so I don't know. I feel like this is going to be a good game to watch, but I don't have a ton of interest as much as other people will.
Yeah, to me, Milwaukee's finally looking like that team that we saw the last 2 years that, was, historical net ratings last year was up there with like the 1970 Bucks when they had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar before I was born. So what do you think, JSU? Are you gonna take Phoenix here, or you want to jump on Milwaukee with me?
Well, I think 2 pieces of key injury news: CP3 questionable, Crowder questionable. That's actually really important. If you told me they're in, I actually like the Phoenix side, and I kind of would I would take the points. I honestly might take them outright here against the Bucks because I like the way their team sets up if those guys are in, because they have a bunch of guys who can stretch the floor. They can space it out. with Booker and CP3 and Crowder, who's a good three-point shooter, and some of these other guys. Whereas if those two are out, it definitely affects them a little bit more. So CP3, if he's in, he can get into the teeth of the defense and then kick the shooters, which is the way you're going to beat Milwaukee. So I think it sets up, Phoenix will slow it down a little bit. I like them if those guys are in. If those guys are out, though, that's key news. I probably lean the Buck side if those guys are out. But if they're in, definitely the Suns for me.
Yeah, and I was talking to our guy Tyler last night as I was choosing which game to write about for my article, and I told him I like Milwaukee, and he likes Phoenix too. So, I didn't place a bet on it yet. I definitely wanted to talk to you guys and just get some more opinions because this might be a game to just watch and enjoy. Hopefully cash on a couple earlier games and then kick my feet up and just be a normal fan and just root for some good basketball. So, DFS wise, are we targeting this game at all? Or I see the total is 226, which isn't crazy for a Milwaukee game. You guys going to get any of these guys in your lineup?
I think some of these guys will be popular, especially with the injury news. Like, we all know if CP3's out, people will go right back to Devin Booker. And some of these, Etwan Moore played like 40 minutes last game. So some of these guys will definitely get ownership. From the Buck side, definitely we'll see ownership because we know Drew is going to be out. So it's not a game, though, like Tony said, it's not a game that, like, I have super interest. Like, I don't love, like, picking a ton of players from this game. Maybe have a little interest depending on injury news on the Phoenix side, but it's not as big as you would think going up against a team like Milwaukee. It's the same thing on their side, even with them losing a stud. Like, I don't know really how much I love all these guys, Giannis and Middleton and some of these cheaper guys. Yeah, they're fine plays. It's not that they're bad plays or anything like that. I just don't love this game in general from a DFS standpoint. Maybe that'll change as news comes in, though. I don't know. I think this is more of a fan game, though, to me.
So, Tony, I've heard you talk on the, I'll just call it the Workbench show, the one that comes on at 4:45, and how you hate the solo late games just because your whole lineup could be screwed with some bad news like towards the end and there's nothing to pivot to. In this case, we have two games. Does that make it a little more playable, or are we still like living on the edge and do we avoid it?
So, this is just how it's gone for me. It doesn't mean it's right. It doesn't mean it's wrong. I've had so much success lately playing these early games that it just naturally pushes me to it. And again tonight, Toronto, Washington, Atlanta, Dallas, Indiana, Brooklyn, Charlotte, Memphis, all early games. Like, I love all those games. I don't need them. The late games are fine. Don't get me wrong, yeah. But what's the old saying? Like, if it works, don't break it, whatever that saying is. Like, I like the early. I'm just going to keep doing it until something changes. I'll take my chances fading these late ones.
And I heard you guys talking yesterday, and your idea was basically like, I'll put up the points and you have to catch me, right?
And it's basically what happened.
I'll set the benchmark.
Yeah, last night we set the mark, basically the best possible team, and then friggin' Cole Anthony gets hurt, and everyone gets lucky falling into Frank Mason getting all the second half run.
Frank Mason.
Freaking Frank Mason's the guy that hurts us. But again, post the score, let him come get you.
Can you imagine Frank Mason being the guy that just
I'm just happy.
I'll tell you, too, so many people are so lucky that dude got that run in the second half because he was so popular, and he was someone like I didn't even like that. Like he was someone like I know he was cheap, and he got some decent run, but like if that game stayed close and Cole Anthony didn't get hurt, he was gonna get like 16, 17 minutes. Like, what? Okay, he's not like Hernan Gomez, who if he gets 17 or 18 minutes could literally have like 10, 8 rebounds, a block. Like, he could literally this Frank Mason, people were playing him. I was just like, this dude's 30% owned, and everyone just luck boxed into all this run. That's running good right there. That is running as pure as possible if you played Frank Mason last night.
All right. Well, this is a great time talking to you guys about the games. But before we get out of here, I'd like to get, kind of a best play or a best bet from both of you. So we'll start with you, JSU. If you can only play one game on the board, side or total, what are you looking at?
Well, I think I'm going to steal the game that I'm sure Big T is going to like, which is I like
That's good.
Charlotte
Make
plus
him
the
work.
4.
Make him work. He
I
can
just
afford
think
it.
that, yeah, he can afford it. I just think that Charlotte is the better team, and I'll take them plus the points. I'd probably take a money line too, but I definitely take them plus the points.
All right, Big T, Charlotte's off the board. You got to choose one. Who are you taking for your favorite play today?
Oh, man, so I like a few of these early games, and I like Atlanta. I definitely like Charlotte, like we said. Who's going to be my winner, though? I got to give one strong winner.
Yeah, we want it.
Uh, I like Washington. I'm going to go with Washington. I feel good about Washington in this spot. Plus, what is it, 6.5?
I see +5 right now, but
It's all the way down to 5 now?
well, let me check Bookmaker.
Oh,
Five
man.
and a half.
I mean, I
Five
like
and a half as of right now, but I haven't
yeah,
refreshed it during the whole show, so it could have moved a little. But hey,
I
if
like
you do
that.
like Washington, I think Toronto's going to take money. So I mean, I don't think that if you wait, I think you'll end up getting more and more points. So you like
I like
Washington, all
I
right.
think they're going to win too. So, like always, if I would never take a +5 or 6 if I didn't think they could win. So, sprinkle that money line.
All right, and I'll go ahead and give out my favorite play for a team that really disappointed me on Monday. So I'm going to fade them just out of spite, and I'm going to take the Pelicans to beat the Bulls with no front court. I mean, I really underestimated how much that loss of Porter Jr. and Wendell Carter was going to affect their defense, which isn't that good to begin with. And I mean, really, if they don't play like the Brooklyn Nets, they can't win. So I'll go ahead and lay the 2.5 or the 3, depending on what book you're at. I am seeing 2.5 here at Bookmaker right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put that bet in right now. So, gentlemen, a lot of fun. Hey, and we're going to get out of here even a little more time before the show. When we were like 25 minutes in on the second game, I was worried I was going to keep you guys right into your other show. So before we get out of here, do you guys have anything for the people that you want to let them know?
No, I mean, come check out the shows later. I mean, two shows, 4:45. The first show with me, Hoop, and Title today, I'm sure. Right after that, the premium show, JSU and Holden. Definitely check that out. Going up to lock with all the news. And then the bedside, I mean, guys like Spread, JJ, Keg, Joey Work, all these dudes. Everybody's giving it to you. It's $100 for the site. I say this all the time. We've picked up a bunch of people the last couple of days because of this heater, but the heater doesn't change the content. The content's just as good on the bet side. The DFS, it's $100 for the whole site. There's literally no reason not to get it. Sign up over there. What's the code right now? Workbench 21, 25% off.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
21.
Workbench 21.
Yeah.
And don't forget, guys, hit that thumbs up. You like this rundown? You like this free show? Me, Big T. I know Mangone's hopped on. AP's hopped on. A bunch of guys hopping on with Spread. You like it. You want more of it. Hit that thumbs up. It's free content. So, we'd appreciate the like if you like it. And, yeah, hopefully we can bring you more.
All right, and tomorrow's up in the air for me because of a scheduling thing. Hopefully, I'll be back at 10 a.m., but if not, for sure, on Friday, I'll be back with AP, 1 o'clock Eastern, and on Saturday, you talked about the bedside, bringing in Joey Work. I'm sure we'll be talking some New York Knicks, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So, guys, thanks for joining me. I'm going to already pencil you guys in for next Wednesday, and thanks, everyone, for watching. Run Pure.